holy as Jesus himself, calm yet disturbed. Soon he decided that Christianity was the religion for the entire world. And to see things better and clearer, he saw them in his head. He put on his newly purchased glasses one afternoon and invited me with a nudge of his elbow to noiselessly follow him to Bibi's prayer room. I shut the door behind me and tiptoed to the mantel where Muhammad knelt, staring at the pictures before him. In his eyes was the look of a horrified eagle. He took one glance at Prophet Jesus and one glance at Prophet Muhammad, back and forth. I followed his glances from picture to picture and had to wonder when Muhammad asked, "Do you see what I see?" As always, I had to stir hard to see things that were clear in his mind. I got closer, even asked Muhammad's permission to borrow his glasses. Maybe my eyes would see what Muhammad wanted me to see, but things got even blurrier. Embarrassed, I shook my head no. "Give me those." He reached for his glasses and placed them back on his enormous eyes. It's so unfair, I thought. It's not like he needed any bigger eyes when those green eyes of his were already like two bright lanterns. Maybe I ought to butter Bibi up, and an idea came to me at that moment. So he would buy me a pair of glasses, then I might double the size of my eyes and have long eyelashes just like his. "Look harder. This is what I'm trying to tell you." He handed me the picture he had found in some old books. An almost naked, very thin man gazed at me, with the palm of his hands and his soles nailed to a wooden cross, blood springing out from the holes that seemed perfectly clean. The poor man's head leaning to one side, he stared down at his feet with two large, sad puppy eyes. His disheveled hair and beard were long and fell wild about his shoulders. On his head nested a robin. The sight of that scrawny man with his bones and ribs sticking out and just a green shawl hanging from between his legs made me pinch my cheek. A river of pain streamed in my heart. "Who is this poor man?" I asked. "Why is he nailed to a cross?" "He's Messiah Jesus," he said in a hushed voice. "His enemies crucified him and carried his body from alley to alley, but he rose and went to heaven." Ah, now I remember. Bibi had told me stories about him, that his mother was the blessed soul, the immaculate blessed Maryam, who by God's will gave birth to a child even though she was a virgin. She went out to the mountains, and there she coiled in pain, holding to the trunk of an olive tree until her baby was born. I had seen a portrait of her carved on the beautiful gold talisman hung next to the rows of necklaces and cross pendants in the glass displays in the gold market. Once Bibi accompanied the neighbor's daughter, a bride-to-be. Her mother came to our house, in her hand a plate of sugar cubes and assorted cookies, inviting Bibi to give them the honor of going to the gold market, for she believed Bibi would bring blessings to the union. In one of the gold chambers, Bibi unfolded a few tumans from the small leather purse she clutched in her hand and browsed to find an affordable chain for her grandchild, who stared at the shiny gold necklace. I pointed to the gold portrait of a sad, angelic face. "That one, Bibi. I want that necklace, the angel face." Bibi took the necklace from the hand of the gold merchant, kissed the gold surface, and put it back on the glass counter. "This is the portrait of the Blessed Maryam, dear, the mother of Prophet Jesus. May I die for his torn and hole-ridden body." The Armenians believe in Jesus as the prophet. They wore these necklaces and the cross in the memory of what those godless people had done to him, nailing his sacred body to a wooden board. "You're a Muslim girl, and Prophet Muhammad is our prophet. You could have an Allah necklace instead, if you'd like." So she bought me a tiny pendant with Allah written in beautiful Arabic calligraphy. All the way home, she told me stories from the Quran about Jesus growing up and that he was betrayed by his most trusted man, Yehuda, at his Last Supper. "Why didn't he run away if he knew he was going to be nailed to a cross, Bibi?" I was not convinced that someone who knew he was going to be hurt like that would stay and have dinner instead of running away. But Bibi reasoned that in the way of God, a body has no value to be sacrificed, much less if it is the body of a prophet chosen by God. In the quiet of the prayer room now, Muhammad was staring at the picture of the same man he held carefully with the top of his fingers, for we were taught that the saints' pictures are holy and may not be touched with unwashed hands. It was the same man nailed to the golden cross that hung in the display of the gold chamber. Muhammad stared at the portrait of the Prophet Muhammad, who had chubby cheeks and red as an apple, as if he had just finished a good portion of lamb kebab. His eyes brown and large, his skin smooth as velvet, a perfectly trimmed beard, and a beautiful green turban around his head. Raising his left index finger to heaven, he held the magnificent holy book of the Quran in his right hand. At his feet rested a gold-maned lion, protecting his famous razor-sharp sword. Next to the Prophet's picture was another portrait of his son-in-law, his cousin and chosen successor, Imam Ali. He too had chubby red cheeks. He too held his famous mighty sword. Even though his eyes seemed kind, they radiated a certain fear, piercing through you, making you feel guilty as if you had just committed a sin which could consign you to hell. That day, I left the prayer room thinking that the Islamic saints were well-fed and nicely clothed, whereas the Christian saints were poor, naked, and starved, even though they ate their dinner. For once, I saw what Muhammad saw in his head, one out to do something good for hungry Christians. Muhammad wondered more, and I wondered even more with him. I also wondered about remarks, hushed words, whispers, and the cut-off phrases my brothers spoke from time to time, like that time I entered the courtyard and Ali was talking oddly with Mother as she gathered the dry clothes off the laundry line. "Muhammad is Jesus," I heard him say. "What? What is Ali talking about?" I wondered as I unbuttoned the top of my school uniform in Bibi's room. Muhammad